The bullies only thought he was just a black janitor, easy to pick on, easy to mock, and easy to humiliate. They laughed at his skin color, treated him like an outcast, believing he was too weak to fight back. But they didn't know they'd chosen the wrong person to mess with. Samuel Sam Jackson wasn't just an ordinary custodian. He was the son of Vincent Vince Jackson, a name whispered in fear across Atlanta, Georgia, a man whose enemies didn't just lose, they disappeared. And now, those bullies were about to learn a lesson they'd never forget. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. Lincoln Heights was always noisy every morning. Laughter echoed, lockers slammed shut, shoes pounded on the tiled floor, all blending into a familiar chaotic symphony. But today, something felt different. A new man appeared, walking through the main gate with a calm demeanor, hands tucked into the pockets of a worn dark green janitor's jacket. Sam Jackson, 60 years old, short silver hair hugging his scalp, face etched with wrinkles. He wore nothing flashy, no expensive clothes, no fancy accessories. He didn't try to draw attention, but if anyone bothered to look closely, they'd notice something. Sam didn't just walk, he glided. Each step was slow, deliberate, as if he knew exactly where he was and who was watching. He didn't glance around nervously like other newcomers. He didn't seem awkward or lost. Instead, he carried an eerie calm, an absolute sense of control. His eyes, deep, piercing, quietly scanned everything around him. He pushed his custodial cart, the wheels rolling steadily across the floor, blending into the school's noise, yet somehow standing apart. A few students glanced at him and turned away. Others whispered to each other, curious about this older black janitor, but no one knew who he really was. His father, Vincent Vince Jackson, wasn't an ordinary man. He was a legend, a name spoken in shadows, in conversations cut short by fear, a man who, when he entered a room, silenced even the toughest guys. But at Lincoln Heights, no one knew that. Yet, Sam moved through the crowded halls of Lincoln Heights, feeling the eyes slide over him, judgmental looks, whispers that seemed harmless, but carried hidden meaning. He didn't need to turn around to know what they were saying. He was too used to it. Those joking remarks that were really laced with prejudice. "Wow, he looks like some guy from a crime movie," a voice called out from the crowd. "I bet the school took him in for diversity points," another added. "Watch out, these types snap, and it's over," a boy sneered with a laugh. Sam didn't react. He'd heard it all his life. Lincoln Heights was no different. A wealthy school, where everything was decided by connections and unspoken favors. To guys like Tyler Brooks, football team captain, son of Victor Brooks, a businessman who frequented the mayor's fundraisers, the world was simple. There were those on top, and those beneath. Tyler Brooks, with his blonde hair and confident swagger, was the kind of guy who'd never known failure or rejection. Everything came easy. His spot leading the team, teachers' favoritism, control over the weaker kids. He didn't need to be the best. He just needed to be seen as the best. He didn't need to be the strongest. He just needed others to believe he was. To him, domination was a game, and anyone who didn't bow would pay. And Sam, an older black janitor, quiet, friendless, powerless, was the perfect target. Tyler started with his usual tricks. He didn't strike right away. He liked to test, to probe his prey, to find weaknesses before landing the final blow. It began with shoulder bumps in the hallway, seemingly accidental, but never truly so. A light nudge, just enough to throw Sam off balance, making the broom in his hand wobble. Giggles from Tyler's crew followed, as Sam passed, half-joking comments loud enough for him to hear. "Bet he's here on a charity scholarship," one voice said. "Hope he doesn't carry a knife. These guys are known for violence," another added with a laugh. These games weren't new to Sam. He'd met hundreds of Tylers, guys who didn't want to win, just wanted to see others give up. But Sam wasn't that kind of man. He didn't bow, didn't force a smile, didn't react. He just kept walking, silent, as if Tyler didn't exist. That indifference got under Tyler's skin, but for now, he didn't know who he'd pissed off. Tyler Brooks couldn't stand being ignored. To him, Sam Jackson's silence wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a quiet challenge, something he couldn't let slide. He was used to people reacting how he wanted, trembling in fear, or exploding in anger. Both fed his satisfaction, but Sam was different. Sam's indifference only fueled Tyler's interest. The next day, as Sam pushed his cart across the courtyard, Tyler accidentally dropped a soda can from his hand, the fizzy brown liquid spilling across the path Sam had just cleaned. "Oops, slipped," Tyler said loudly, enough for nearby students to hear and laugh along. "Bet you're used to cleaning this stuff up, huh, old man?" Mason chimed in, slapping Tyler's shoulder like it was a brilliant quip. Sam paused, looked at the spreading puddle, then silently grabbed a rag from his cart and started wiping. He didn't look up, didn't reply, didn't show a hint of anger. His eyes stayed blank, cold, as if it was all just part of the job. Those taunts weren't new to Sam. He'd faced dozens of Tylers, guys who thought they could control others with a few words and petty acts. But Sam wasn't the type to grovel or snap back like Tyler expected. He didn't fake a smile to please him, didn't lash out to give him an excuse to escalate. He just kept working, silent, as if Tyler and his crew weren't worth his attention, and that drove Tyler crazy. He wasn't used to being ignored. The people he'd bullied always reacted the same, trembling in fear or raging. Both gave him a win, but Sam did nothing. He just walked on, like Tyler didn't exist, and that made Tyler feel invisible, a feeling Tyler Brooks had never known, and he hated it. "Who does he think he is?" Tyler muttered to Ethan during lunch, as they sat at a table near the window, overlooking the courtyard. Sam was out there, slowly sweeping dry leaves under Atlanta's harsh sun. "Bet he thinks he's better than us, or something," Ethan replied, shrugging. "Probably doesn't get how things work around here," Mason added, chewing his sandwich. Tyler didn't need the reminder. He knew exactly what was happening. Sam wasn't just some old janitor. He was a challenge, and Tyler wasn't about to let it slide. He clenched his jaw, staring at Sam through the glass. If this old man thought he could dodge Tyler's attention, he was dead wrong. Tyler was used to controlling people with his presence. He didn't need to hit or yell to make someone flinch. Just a look, a sly smile, a well-timed whisper, was enough to get the reaction he wanted. But Sam was different. He didn't bow, didn't react, just kept that maddening calm. Not weakness or fear, but a quiet confidence, like he knew the game better than anyone, and that pissed Tyler off more than anything. The next day, as Sam mopped near a classroom, Tyler showed up again. This time, he didn't just bump him. He stepped forward, deliberately stomping on a piece of trash Sam had just swept, leaving a smudge on the clean floor. "Missed a spot, old man," he said, voice slow and loaded. His crew laughed loud. A few nearby students glanced over but quickly looked away. Sam closed the trash bin lid, unhurried, unangered. Sam Jackson's silence was like a flame, pushing Tyler Brooks to double down. To him, that indifference wasn't surrender. It was a quiet taunt, a jab at his pride. Tyler was used to running everything around him, used to seeing people buckle or blow up. Every reaction was his victory. But Sam Jackson wasn't like the others, and that's why Tyler couldn't let it go. He started playing meaner pranks, taking it up a notch. The accidental hallway bumps became part of a sharper plan. One morning, as Sam scrubbed near the lockers, Tyler and his buddies Ethan and Mason walked by. Tyler deliberately slammed his shoulder hard into Sam, sending the broom clattering to the ground with a dry clack. "Watch where you're going, old man," Tyler said, voice dripping with contempt, lips curling into a smirk. Ethan burst out laughing, slapping Tyler's shoulder like it was a great play. "Bet he can't see the road with those bad eyes," Mason mocked. Sam didn't reply, just bent down slowly to pick up the broom and kept working. No rush, no fury, but that silence only made Tyler angrier. He didn't just want a reaction. He wanted to push Sam to the edge, to see him break, even just once. The next day, He tried a new move. As Sam pushed his cart through the courtyard, Tyler accidentally dropped a soda can from his hand. The brown liquid splashed across the floor Sam had just cleaned. "Oops, my hand slipped," Tyler called out, loud enough for every student nearby to hear and laugh along. "Bet you're used to cleaning this up, huh, old man?" Ethan taunted, voice thick with sarcasm. Sam stopped, looked at the spreading puddle, then silently grabbed a rag from his cart and started wiping. No words, no glare of anger, just that maddening calm. Tyler's crew laughed louder, but deep down, Tyler felt frustration boiling. He couldn't stand being dismissed like this, and Sam's indifference made him feel worthless. Tyler had never felt outmatched by anyone. At Lincoln Heights, he was the king. People feared and bowed to him. He didn't need force or shouting. A glance, a sly grin, a whisper was enough to make others submit. But Sam Jackson was different. He didn't bow, didn't react, just held that quiet confidence, like he'd played this game forever. It drove Tyler wild, so he kept up the harassment, turning Lincoln Heights halls into his playground. Every day, as Sam cleaned, Tyler found ways to mess with him, stomping on wet floors Sam had just mopped, tossing paper scraps to land in front of him. Each time, he hoped for a crack in Sam's demeanor, a flash of anger, or a flicker of unease. But Sam stayed calm, like Tyler was nothing to him. That afternoon, as Sam cleaned near the lockers, Tyler decided to up the game. He walked up, not just bumping Sam but deliberately stepping on the pile of trash Sam had just swept, leaving a smear on the clean floor. "Missed a spot, old man," he said, voice thick with mockery. His crew roared with laughter. A few nearby students glanced over but quickly turned away, staying clear of the mess. Sam, unhurried, unangered, just closed the trash lid and kept going. Feeling ignored, feeling invisible, was more than Tyler could take. He'd never let anyone make him feel small, and he wasn't about to start now. If Sam Jackson thought he could keep dodging Tyler's attention, he was wrong. Tyler clenched his fists, anger surging. This old man could stay silent all he wanted, but Tyler wouldn't let it last. He'd make him speak, even just once. Sam couldn't stand in front of him without showing fear, and Tyler would be the one to teach him that lesson. Sam Jackson sat quietly in the grand dining room, the light from the crystal chandelier overhead casting a soft golden glow across the long wooden table, gentle but cold. Everything on the table was perfectly arranged: a medium-rare steak, a gleaming glass of red wine, a plate of fresh greens on a spotless white dish. All precise, not a detail out of place, like how things always ran in this house. But tonight, the air felt different. A heavy silence hung over them. No one speaking, no one breaking the long pause between the two Jackson men. Sam set his knife and fork neatly by his plate, his eyes not on the untouched steak in front of him. He was too used to these serious dinners, to the unspoken rules his father, Vince Jackson, had set long ago. No phones at the table, no sloppy eating, no pointless chatter. But tonight, he didn't eat, not because of any rule, but because his mind was elsewhere. Across from him Vince Jackson sat, slowly savoring his meal. His white hair was neatly combed, his tailored suit flawless without a single wrinkle, and at 82, he still radiated undeniable authority. In Atlanta's underworld, Vince wasn't just a figure, he was a force, a shadow the real power players knew but never named outright. Sam had lived his whole life under that shadow, not as a burden or control, but as an invisible presence, always there, always reminding him his family wasn't like anyone else's. When Vince spoke, his voice wasn't abrupt or surprising, like he'd known something for a while, and was just waiting for the right moment to say it. "Something wrong?" he asked, low and steady. Sam didn't answer right away. He looked up, his calm brown eyes meeting Vince's sharp cold stare. No comfort, no empty reassurances like other parents might offer. With Vince, there was no room for coddling. He demanded one thing: answers. Sam lowered his gaze, fingers tapping lightly on the plate's edge, weighing whether to speak. Then he took a small breath, letting the words he knew would spark an unavoidable conversation slip out. "Just some kids, thinking they can push people around," he said, voice even. A brief silence filled the room. Vince didn't react immediately. He kept cutting a piece of steak from his plate, chewing slowly, as if Sam hadn't spoken, but his eyes stayed on Sam, watching him like a general sizing up a battlefield before deciding. When he set his knife and fork down, the clink of metal on the plate rang through the quiet like a bell, signaling a shift in the talk. "Names," Vince said, voice not loud, not harsh or threatening, but carrying a weight that made the room feel tighter. Sam had expected that question. He knew his father didn't take half answers. To Vince, everything in life was controlled, calculated, handled his way. If someone dared touch his family, they'd face consequences. But Sam didn't want it to go that route. He shook his head, eyes firm. "I can handle it," he said, voice steady. Another long pause stretched between them. Vince studied his son for a moment, as if gauging whether that claim was real confidence or just a cover for weakness. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. Not a happy smile, not pride, but an acknowledgement, like he saw something in Sam's eyes he respected. He picked up his wine glass, swirling the deep red liquid inside, before taking a small sip. When he set it down, his voice came, slow and loaded. "Good," he said. Just one word, but layered with meaning. He didn't press, didn't force Sam to name names, but then he said something Sam knew he'd never forget. "But remember, son." Vince tilted his head slightly, eyes studying Sam with careful calculation. "Sometimes an enemy needs a reminder of their place." Sam didn't reply right away. He understood his father's point. He could handle it himself. But Vince wasn't talking about handling things the usual way. He didn't believe in enduring or waiting. In Vince's world, power wasn't about dodging or letting go. It was control. Sam Jackson took a deep breath, feeling the chill inside him. He didn't want to become like his father, didn't want to be driven by old rules or past fears. But one thing he couldn't deny: no one would get to dictate his life, especially not a kid like Tyler Brooks. The boy's antics had gone too far, and now Sam knew it was time to teach Tyler a lesson. He might think he could act without paying a price, but Sam would show him one thing: no one messed with him without consequences. Sam set his knife and fork on the table, leaned back in his chair, his cold eyes flickering like a flame igniting in the dark. And right after that, Sam Jackson's name started spreading through Lincoln Heights halls. The whispers weren't just hushed anymore. Now they lingered, soft but carrying an undercurrent of power no one could ignore. Stolen glances, quiet stories swapped between students began to hold a new wariness. What Tyler once thought was harmless fun now started to carry weight. He began to feel a shift in the air, like a storm lurking on the horizon. Sam was no longer someone he could easily dismiss or shove into the shadows. Tyler felt irritated, anger bubbling up inside him. If Sam wouldn't speak, if he wouldn't fight back against the pranks, then Tyler would make him acknowledge his existence. And to do that, he needed a big enough stage, one no one could ignore. Tyler knew one strong move would stop this old man from staying silent. He was ready, and nothing would hold him back this time. It all went down at lunchtime in the Lincoln Heights cafeteria. The air was as usual, loud buzzing, voices mixing with the clatter of trays. Sam sat alone in a far corner near the window, quietly eating his simple lunch, a sandwich, and a cup of water. He was always like that. No talking, no mingling, just sitting there with a steady gaze, watching everything around him. Tyler spotted him right away when he walked in with Ethan and Mason. He eyed him from across the room, squinting, a smirk creeping across his lips. "Look at that," he said to his crew, loud enough to catch a few nearby students' attention. "Old man's alone again. Guess no one wants to be his friend, huh?" Tyler's crew laughed hard, the sound ringing out like a signal. Tyler glanced around the crowd, feeling eyes starting to turn his way. He loved this, the attention, the recognition as the one in charge. But today wasn't just about that. Today was about putting Sam in his place. Beneath him, He couldn't let this old man keep ignoring him without a cost. If people thought Sam could slip by him without consequences, the power he'd built at Lincoln Heights would shake. This wasn't just about Sam anymore. It was about his reputation, how people saw him. Tyler smirked, nodding to Ethan and Mason. "Let's go, fun starts now," he said, voice brimming with confidence. The three strode toward Sam's table, their shoes hitting the floor like a drumbeat warning. As they got close, Tyler raised his voice, louder than usual, enough for the whole cafeteria to hear. "Look at this. Alone again," he said, dripping with mockery. "Guess no one wants to be your friend, huh, old man?" Ethan and Mason's laughter rang out. A few nearby students glanced over but quickly looked away, not wanting trouble. They all knew the rules at Lincoln Heights. Don't interfere, don't side with the weak, and never cross Tyler Brooks. Sam didn't respond. He kept eating, eyes steady, unbothered by what was happening around him. Tyler gritted his teeth, waiting for a reaction, any reaction, but nothing came. That indifference was like a silent declaration of war, an invisible slap he couldn't take anymore. In a split second, his mind snapped. Without thinking, Tyler grabbed Sam's tray, hands gripping the edges, and flipped it hard onto the table. The crash echoed sharply. The sandwich scattered. Water splashed across Sam's shirt. Crumbs flew everywhere. The cafeteria went dead silent. Chatter stopped. Laughter died. Every eye locked on them. Not a word was spoken. A few students blinked at each other. Some swallowed nervously. Others bowed their heads pretending not to see. Tyler stood there, leaning over the table, waiting for Sam's reaction. He wanted anger, panic, a loss of control, anything to prove he'd won. But Sam did nothing. He slowly set his fork on the table, calmly eyeing his now soaked, crumb-strewn janitor's shirt. He took a deep breath, real slow, like he was weighing his next move. Then he looked up, not angry, not scared, not rattled, no hint of hurt, just a blank, icy stare, as cold as his silence. A chill ran down Tyler's spine. He couldn't explain why, but in that moment, he didn't feel like the hunter anymore. He'd stumbled into a predator's turf. The feeling passed quick, and he tried to shake it off. No way, he told himself. This was just a stubborn old janitor. No way he could unsettle him. Tyler forced a smug grin, but his voice wavered as he spoke. "Don't think you're special, just 'cause you're different, old man," he said. Ethan and Mason laughed. A few students buried their heads in their trays, acting like they heard nothing. But everyone knew what had just gone down. Sam didn't answer. He stood up slowly, each movement a quiet defiance against the fury building in Tyler. No rush, no wiping the crumbs off his shirt, no sign of what Tyler wanted, shame, submission, or even just confusion. Sam just turned and walked away, not once looking back, leaving no trace of defeat. That silence wasn't surrender. It was a quiet warning, a message Tyler couldn't yet grasp. He stood there, watching Sam steady back, the victorious smirk on his face freezing up. He'd won, right? He'd just humiliated Sam in front of the whole school, reasserting his dominance at Lincoln Heights. But why didn't it feel like a win? Why was there this hollow ache, a fear he couldn't place? A cold shiver ran through him, like he'd just lost something big. And no matter how he tried to hide it, one truth stabbed deep. This game wasn't over. That night, as Tyler got home, his phone buzzed in his pocket, making his heart pound. On the screen was a text from an unknown number. "Watch your step, kid." He read it over and over, mind spinning. Was it a prank? Someone messing with him? But why did it feel so off? Unease started creeping into every corner of his chest. He couldn't shake the feeling he'd made a serious mistake, that something darker was waiting for him ahead. Tyler couldn't shake that weird feeling. Even as he tried to convince himself it was all coincidence. He'd humiliated Sam Jackson in front of the whole school, flipped his tray onto him, left him soaked, and walking away under the crowd's roaring laughter. It should have been a huge win, a power move to make anyone bow. But instead of triumph, Tyler felt an empty void. Sam's look, cold and distant, when he'd met his eyes wouldn't leave his mind. It wasn't the look of a loser. It was the look of someone who knew something Tyler didn't. And now, that text from last night, "Watch your step, kid," cut into him like a knife, turning everything blurry and menacing. The next few days at school, Tyler tried to keep up his usual confident front. He still wore his football jacket, still joked with Ethan and Mason, still walked the halls like he owned Lincoln Heights, but deep down, something felt off. The sneaky glances from other students weren't admiration anymore. They were curious, even hesitant. Whispers didn't hush when he passed like they used to. "Heard anything yet?" A voice drifted from the crowd as he entered class. "That janitor, he's not normal," another replied, low enough for him to catch. Tyler smirked, trying to play it off, but his heart beat faster. He started noticing Sam more. He was still there every day, sweeping halls, pushing his cart across the courtyard, quiet and calm, like the cafeteria incident never happened. But now, every time Tyler saw him, a chill hit him. Sam's silence wasn't weakness, like he'd thought. It was like an unseen force, a warning he couldn't decode. One afternoon, passing the lockers, Tyler overheard two underclassmen talking. "You know that black janitor?" one kid asked, voice shaky. "I heard he's Vincent Jackson's son," the other whispered. Tyler froze, legs locking up. Vincent Jackson, the name wasn't unfamiliar. He'd heard his dad, Victor Brooks, mention it during a late-night call a few months back. Victor was talking to a business partner, voice lower than usual, not the confident tone of a successful businessman. "Don't piss off Vincent Jackson," he'd said, then went quiet for a long stretch, like just saying the name changed everything. Tyler hadn't thought much of it then, just another of his dad's business ties. But now, hearing it in Lincoln Heights halls, it hit different. He spun around, grabbing the kid who'd spoken, urgency in his grip. "Which Vincent Jackson?" he asked, voice quieter than usual, edged with panic. The kid paled, eyes wide like he'd been asked something forbidden. He swallowed, hesitating, before stammering. The big shot in Atlanta, just what I heard from grown-ups." Tyler let go, stepping back, his heart hammered, each beat like a sledgehammer, in his chest. No way, he told himself. But the more he denied it, the clearer it got. The pieces clicked. Sam's silence, that icy stare, how he never reacted like a normal person. He flashed back to every time he'd mocked him, tossed trash in front of him, flipped that tray in the cafeteria. Each memory stabbed like a blade, sinking in deeper, that he hadn't just bullied the wrong guy, he'd pissed off the son of a man Atlanta's underworld feared. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself, but unease pulsed through his veins. He went back to class, but couldn't focus. The words on the board, the teacher's voice, the scratch of pens, all just meaningless noise sliding past. His head screamed one thing: he'd messed with the wrong person. The phone in his pocket felt heavier, like last night's text could ignite any second. He pulled it out, staring at the words, "Watch your step, kid." This time he couldn't tell himself it was a joke. It wasn't an empty threat. It was a truth waiting to hit. When the final bell rang, Tyler walked out the main gate with a weight in his chest. He didn't want to linger. Instinct told him to get out fast. But as he stepped into the front courtyard, an odd feeling crashed over him. Everything looked normal. Students spilling out in groups, cars lining the street, parents waiting, chatter buzzing. But in the crowd, two men stood out, off in a way he couldn't miss. They weren't students or parents. They stood a few steps from the gate, dressed sharp, fitted shirts, pressed pants, polished shoes, but nothing casual or random about them. Tyler knew instantly they were here for him. One of the men locked eyes with him and gave a slight smile, not friendly, just a formality. "Mr. Jackson wants a word," he said, voice low, unhurried. No need for threats. Tyler felt cold sweat trickle down his back. He could run, scream, make a scene, right there in the courtyard, to grab a teacher's or guard's attention. But he didn't. Deep down, he knew it was pointless. Tyler Brooks couldn't focus on anything for the rest of that school day. The words on the board, the teacher's voice, the scratch of pens, all just a faint, meaningless hum, rolling past like a pointless movie. His mind locked on one thought: he'd messed with the wrong person. Those two men outside the gate, with their cold, steady, "Mr. Jackson wants a word," had carved a fear into him he couldn't shake. The phone in his jacket pocket weighed him down, like the "watch your step" kid text could burst into flames any moment. He'd once controlled everything at Lincoln Heights, but now, he felt like prey. The days after, Tyler tried to keep up his usual front. He still wore his football jacket, still walked the halls with a confident stride, but it wasn't the same. His smile wasn't easy anymore. His voice didn't carry. The looks from other students weren't awe or fear. They were curious, even distant. Whispers didn't stop when he passed. "Tyler's off today, huh?" A voice floated from the crowd. "Bet it's about that janitor," another replied. Tyler heard, but didn't dare turn. He just walked faster, hiding the tremble inside. Sam Jackson didn't do anything. He showed up every day, sweeping halls, pushing his cart across the courtyard, quiet like the cafeteria scene never happened. But that silence drove Tyler nuts. He'd wanted Sam to snap, a punch, a threat, anything clear he could handle. But Sam didn't. He didn't need to. Fear found Tyler on its own. No help required. Every time he saw Sam from afar, his breath caught. Sam didn't look at him, didn't speak to him, but Tyler felt watched, or like someone was watching for him. Ethan and Mason, his closest buddies, started shifting too. They didn't slap his shoulder, or laugh at his every quip like before. "You good, bro?" Ethan asked one lunch, voice skeptical. "I'm fine," Tyler snapped, but he knew they didn't buy it. Mason just shrugged, chewing gum, and looking away. They sensed the change in him, and no one wanted to touch the trouble he'd brought on himself. Slowly, they drifted. No more hanging out after school, no more calls to chill. The guys who'd once cheered him on now whispered behind his back, like he was a disease they didn't want to catch. At home, things weren't better. One night, as Tyler walked into the living room, he heard his dad, Victor Brooks, on the phone, voice tight. "What do you mean lost the deal? Who's behind this?" Victor growled, then went silent, for a long beat. When he hung up, his eyes locked on Tyler, sharp and furious. "What'd you do at school?" Victor asked, voice dropping like an accusation. Tyler stammered, trying to explain, but Victor cut him off. "Got word from a partner. They say someone's unhappy with you. If you pissed off the Jacksons, I can't save you." Tyler froze. He'd hoped his dad, a big-shot businessman with heavy connections, could shield him. But now, even Victor was scared. Fear started seeping into every corner of Tyler's life. He couldn't sleep. Nights found him lying in bed, eyes wide in the dark, ears straining for every tiny sound. He dreamed of Sam in a shadowed room, whispering, "Think I'm weak, kid?" He'd jolt awake, sweat soaking his shirt, heart pounding. Every phone buzz made him flinch, dreading another text, a reminder he was being tracked. Tyler started avoiding Sam at school. If he saw him in the halls, he'd turn the other way. If he appeared in the courtyard, Tyler bolted. He wasn't the cocky bully mocking people anymore. He just wanted to dodge trouble, dodge anyone tied to Sam Jackson. Lincoln Heights, the school Tyler once ruled, didn't feel the same, but only the sharp-eyed caught the shift. Laughter still bounced through the halls. Lockers still slammed each morning. Rushed footsteps on the tiles still set the familiar beat of a rich Atlanta high school. Tyler, once the center of it all, was now just a faint shadow in the crowd, walking quiet, unnoticed. And Samuel "Sam" Jackson, the old janitor, was still there, but no longer just a seamless part of the place. Sam kept doing his job like nothing had happened. He pushed his cart through the courtyard, swept the halls, wiped smudges off the floor with unchanging calm. His green janitor's jacket was still frayed at the shoulders, his calloused hands still gripped the broom tight, his steady eyes still scanned everything around. No one brought up the cafeteria incident, no one dared. But the looks were different now. Students didn't whisper taunts as he passed. Instead, they avoided his gaze, walked faster when he neared, like a wrong glance could drag them into trouble they didn't get. Sam didn't need to speak, didn't need to act. His presence alone changed things. Tyler Brooks was a different story now. He didn't wear his football jacket anymore. It was stuffed in a locker corner, like a memory he wanted gone. He showed up to school daily, but didn't laugh or pick on anyone. Ethan and Mason didn't walk with him, didn't slap his shoulder, or echo his jokes. They ditched him, like the weaker kids he'd once dodged. The students who'd admired him now gave him passing curious glances, then turned away like he wasn't worth the time. Tyler wasn't king of Lincoln Heights anymore. He was just another kid, someone who'd had it all, and now had nothing. He didn't dare face Sam. Every time he spotted him from a distance, he turned, hurried off, hands gripping his backpack straps, like clinging to his last shred of control. He didn't know if Sam was really behind what was happening to him. The dreams that woke him sweating, the mystery texts, the distance from friends, the fear in his dad's eyes. But he didn't need proof. Sam's silence was enough to unravel him. He didn't need a beating or threats. Fear did it all for him. One afternoon, as the final bell rang, Tyler stepped into the front courtyard. The crowd of students poured out as usual, but he didn't blend in. He stood still, eyes unfocused, staring into the distance. Then he saw Sam, not as a janitor cleaning, but just standing there near the gate, quietly watching. His gaze wasn't angry, wasn't threatening, just calm, like he saw through everything without a word. Tyler's chest tightened. He wanted to run, scream, do anything to escape that feeling, but his feet wouldn't move. This old janitor didn't need to do a thing. That look alone made Tyler know he'd lost. Sam turned, walked toward his supply area, his figure fading into Atlanta's sinking sunset. Tyler stood there, watching until he was gone, emptiness swallowing him. He knew he'd never bounce back, and Sam went on with his life, quiet and steady, like Tyler Brooks had never existed. The story of Samuel Sam Jackson and Tyler Brooks at Lincoln Heights High reflects real slices of life in the U.S. today, especially around racism, social power, and the fallout of arrogance in a society that prizes individualism and reputation. In the story, Tyler, a rich white kid, bullies Sam, an older black janitor, thinking he's an easy mark because of his race, age, and low-rung job. It's like how racial and class biases still linger in America, where working-class or minority folks often get dismissed, especially in places like schools or workplaces. Tyler flipping the tray in the cafeteria is a flex of power, a move you see in America's cutthroat culture, where reputation sometimes comes from crushing others. But the story flips it too. Real strength isn't loud flexing. It's the quiet control Sam uses to bring Tyler down without lifting a finger. The takeaway hits home for real life in the U.S. Don't judge people by their looks or status, and watch out with your cocky moves. Sam tied to Vince Jackson, a heavy-hitting kingpin, shows that anyone might pack hidden power, like how overlooked people in America today, immigrants, minorities can hold talent or connections beyond what you'd guess. Tyler paid with his rep, friends, and confidence, just for not knowing when to quit. A warning for anyone in the U.S. who puts others down to prop themselves up. Instead of dominating, learn to respect and listen, because real power, like Sam proved, doesn't need noise to make others bow. Don't forget to subscribe to catch more stories about quiet strength like Sam Jackson's. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video for more life lessons worth knowing.